Hey, this is Chris, Keeping Real. How you doing? Saw an interesting video by John Campbell. I think it was like on the 21st. And I've been thinking about it for about a week, and so it's taken me a while to make what amounts to a rebuttal video, but that's the way it is. I wasn't going to go on his channel and try to argue with people, because like in so many other things, people made up their minds. And so, I mean, when they subscribe to someone, so not that he's not doing a fantastic job, but I think in this instance he's jumped the gun a little bit. So in South Korea, they did these experiments with hamsters, and hamsters are relevant to the discussion of COVID-19 because evidently their biology their biological reaction to viruses is very similar to humans. And so you can pretty much say if a hamster can get a virus, then a human being can get the virus in the same way. And so the experiment, I'm having a hard time finding actual concrete details. I've seen a picture. So what it looks like, they took two cages, they put them side by side, and they put, maybe not tight side by side, but they put them side by side pretty close. Each of the cages is sealed, and there is a tube of unknown diameter running in between the two cages. And so just for brevity, let's just say at the left-hand edge, as you're looking at the cages, at the left-hand edge of the left cage, there's a fan that blows, and if it's unobstructed, it will blow air through the first cage, through the tube, into the second cage. And then I assume there's an exhaust thing at the other end, I would think. And so what the experiment was all about was to try to determine if face masks are effective. And so for what I would call the control part of the experiment, one infected hamster was put in the left-hand cage, 3 not infected hamsters were put in the right-hand cage. The fan was turned on, and then they came back a week later to find out how many of the 3 hamsters in the right-hand cage had been infected, and they found, and I guess since it was 52 hamsters, that's kind of an odd number, because that makes 13 groups of 4. So they had an extra group of one of the parts of the experiment of hamsters, but we came back after a week, and 2 out of the 3 hamsters on average had coronavirus. So 52 hamsters, that's enough to run 13 runs of the experiment, which is not divisible by 3, but because there's 3 different models that they use. So the first model was no obstruction between the 2 cages. Wait a week, come back, see how many are infected, and it was 2/3. So I guess 2/3 total. So yeah, let's not get into individual, because I don't know what they are, individual cases of each pair of cages. If they put surgical mask material on the inside of the left-hand cage, completely covering the hole, but of course would still allow air to go through. They put an infected hamster in the left hand, put 3 non-infected hamsters in the right-hand cage, turn on the fan, come back a week later, on average 1 out of 6 was infected. So that might have been they said 15%. The math doesn't quite work if you're running 9 hamsters. I don't know. See, I wish I could find some more detail. The figure they reported is that on average 15 or 16% got infected. So that's a great improvement. And then they took the surgical mask material and put it covering the hole, the right-hand edge of the hole inside the right-hand cage, and in that experiment, 33% of the hamsters who weren't previously infected got infected. I don't really understand why those 2 would be different, unless there was some other outside air getting in somehow. So on the surface it would seem, and the point they're trying to make, okay, so if you don't use any protection, if hamsters weren't protected at all, they had a 66% chance of getting it. I guess the idea was if the surgical material was on the inside of their cage, that would be equivalent to their wearing a mask, and 33% got infected. And then if the surgical material, face mask material, was in the left-hand cage, that would be equivalent to you wearing a mask, and only 16% got infected. Now that sounds, I mean, that's good, right? I mean, except I think the methodology there is rather flawed, because, you know, when we go out in public, I mean, when we're being told, you know, 6 feet is sufficient. So that's not really the same thing as having a fan behind you blowing on someone for, you know, several days. And so that's where I have a problem with the experiment. It's not. It's just the whole idea that, you know, we're going to sit somewhere for 6 days and be exposed to something. We're not going to do that, or 7 days. I don't do that. I don't get in a situation where that happens. Now, there could be situations where that might happen. And, you know, if I was forced into one of those situations, I might change my mind about wearing masks, but I'm not in that kind of situation. So, you know, a much better control experiment would have been to simply put the hamsters in the cage and leave, and with no fan, which is what we actually experience in real life, and then see how many of the hamsters got infected. And that would be a much better, I think that would be a much more true analog to real life, rather than, because that's basically what they were saying. It's like, you know, well, okay, I've got coronavirus, I'm going to sit right in front of a fan, and then you're going to sit, you know, I mean, and they didn't distance the cages to like take into account how big a hamster is. I mean, they should, of course, maybe if the cages are big enough, they could approximate 6 feet in hamster distance. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, to me, this is not a relevant experiment to the real world situation that we find ourselves in. Not having the fan on and just having the two hamsters in the cage, the one infected in the left cage and the three uninfected in the right cage, really would have been a much more real world experiment than having a fan. I just think it's a little unrealistic. And the other thing that has occurred to me is that only 66% of the animals got infected after a week of having infection-laden air passed over them for 7 days. And even if you, granted, even if the incubation period is like 4.5 days or whatever it is, seems to be the consensus. That means that's still being constantly exposed to a virus for 2 days, a little bit over 2 days. And so that's just not, I mean, what situation are we going to be in where that happens? And the answer is we're not. Nope. That's just not realistic. And so that was, it just kind of shows you that, you know, to me, it just indicates that this virus is not nearly as easy to catch as people claim it is. And that's, of course, that's been my feeling for some time now. Is that, you know, given the slowness of the spread, you know, some people say it really spread quickly. Well, it didn't actually spread quickly. It spread while nobody was paying attention to it. And then you wake up one day and all of a sudden you've got 5,000 cases in New York City. I mean, but that's, you know, it didn't spread quickly considering the number of people who lived there. And there was no protection at all during that time. Nobody knew, well, people knew, but they just weren't doing anything. What are your thoughts? Any questions or comments, leave them in the section below. Like and subscribe. We appreciate when you do. We'll see you on the next